So I don't know what they thought of it because I didn't hear back from the BBC. They said, no, we can't tell you what we're thinking, but we'll take all this into consideration. And it wasn't until the night before the show that they finally said, OK, we did get the Queen.
Wow, what a pleasure this is. First time back in a radio studio since lockdown, and he's chosen to come and speak to us. The legend that is Brian May's with us this morning. Hello.
Thank you very much, James. Very kind of you.
How are you?
Not feeling very legendary at the moment.
Well, I wanted to say, I appreciate this even more because I remember the last time we spoke, you said, you admitted to me that you're not really a morning person.
Oh, completely not. No, I got up at 10 past 4 a.m.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, you do it every day, so hats off to you. But usually I'm going to bed around that time, so it felt pretty weird for me. And I was going to sleep in the car coming here and everything. So I'm just about waking up, really. But we've had quite a full day already down at the gallery. Where
we've got to talk about that because this brilliant new book that I've got in front of me, which is it's just fantastic. It's fascinating. But I think it was April last time we spoke. You were just about to release Another World.
Yes.
So the world's changed since then. So much has happened since then.
So much, yeah.
We've got to talk about the Platinum Jubilee, can we?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, last time we spoke, you kind of hinted towards the fact that you were going to be there.
Well,
and then right in the middle of this crazy touring schedule, there you were.
Yeah, well, of course, you're not supposed to talk about things like that. But we were planning it for months in advance. These things just need an infinite amount of planning. There's so many people involved. And on the day, there's 5 dozen people wandering around with clipboards telling you what to do. And it's kind of a nightmare, but out of it came something great, I think. Yeah, I was really pleased. And it's so nice that the Queen was still around to see that, wasn't it? You know, because it wasn't long afterwards that she left us, you know. But it was a great thing, I think, the Jubilee. And, of course, for us, it's a nice feeling to be asked for a start and then to be given the opening of the show. So we worked on doing something which was going to be spectacular, so we thought. And
goosebumps. I'm just goosebumps watching that. It was
great.
Just amazing. You know, with the royal marching band and the drums, and I think probably the icing on the cake was the video intro, which was your idea. Is that right?
It was definitely partly my idea. I don't know quite what the BBC had in their minds before we started speaking, but somebody has to decide what we're going to play in the beginning. You know, we're opening the show. What are we going to play? And I had this idea that it would be nice to open with the "We Will Rock You" because it's so recognisable. And I thought, well, it would be nice if the military bands played that because it'll suit the snare. So I kind of made a demo of how it could be, and Rock You would then come in, and we would do something with me for it. So we have great guys who work on our staging. Rick from Stewfish, who do all the Queen shows, you know, talking about stage and lights and sound and everything. So we talked and we thought, okay, we'll put me someplace up there because we realised we were going to be on this huge kind of wedding cake that Queen Victoria sits on. So we thought, yeah, okay, we'll get Bri up there and I can make an entrance when the guitar solo comes. So it all started to fall into place in my head. And then, of course, you have to send this to the BBC and see if they approve, and they did. But I kind of went a bit further because I said it'd be nice to have the marching bands, but wouldn't it be nice if the Queen could actually kind of start the whole thing off by tapping something like? I had this idea that you could start off on the corgis and then you would pan around, and then you gradually see the Queen signing some documents with her pencil and going. So I don't know what they thought of it because I didn't hear back from the BBC. They said, no, we can't tell you what we're thinking, but we'll take all this into consideration. And it wasn't until the night before the show that they finally said, OK, we did get the Queen.
Oh, wow.
So that was quite, you know, up to then, we've been kind of in the dark. We're doing our bit and they're doing their bit, but I didn't know.
And Adam didn't even know until after the show. Adam, he heard this incredible noise going up behind him, but I think he was so lost in the moment that it wasn't until afterwards he realised who'd introed him on stage.
I know, it was so hush-hush, you know, nobody was allowed to know. Well, I actually kind of had an inkling because the very fact that they couldn't told me something. It had to be very, very secret if they couldn't tell me. Because I'm supposed to be working on making it all fit together.
Yeah.
But it was good news anyway. And she performed it so well, with the spoon and everything. And Paddington Bear was also an excellent performer, I thought.
I think he played the part well.
Yeah, I never would have thought of Paddington Bear, I've got to say. That's an extra stroke of genius.
I wanted to talk to you about a video that you posted on Insta last week. Of course, we lost the great Jerry Lee Lewis,
Yeah.
which was really, really sad.
Yeah.
But what did put a smile on my face was the video that you posted from back in the late 80s, I think, when you got to perform with the great man himself at the Hammersmith Odeon in London.
I get so lucky. I got to do such great things in my life, and he was such a hero to me. I've been talking with a lot of my mates about Jerry Lee Lewis because, of course, suddenly you're back in that time.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, where did the real rock and roll come? You have kind of rockabilly that was starting out around that time, and you have a kind of fusion between blues and rock, which you actually don't see in the Elvis film. And I think they really missed out on something there because there's a lot of country and a lot of blues, and they come together. It wasn't just blues, but also it's kind of jolly, like Rock Around the Clock, Bill Haley. That's not rock like we know it today. Where did the kind of anger and passion come from? My answer is two piano players, not guitar players. Jerry Lee Lewis is one and Little Richard is the other. They're screaming their guts out. They're not singing like Johnny Ray or Frank Sinatra. They're screaming their passion. And it's kind of on the verge of uncomfortable. That's where rock music came from, in my opinion. And you got to look a bit later before the guitar actually catches up, I think, strangely enough. I mean, James Burton is in there doing some of Elvis stuff and Rick Nelson. But, until you get to Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, that's when you get the real passion coming into the guitar playing. It's fascinating for me because you think of rock music as being completely guitar dominated, but really those two guys, I think, put the anger in which made rock what it is, the reality, the passion,
How was it for you? I mean, was it nerve-wracking for you?
How was it for me? Yeah.
Thinking about a long time ago.
Yeah, no, I can remember it vividly because there's a whole sort of aura surrounding Jerry Lee Lewis, and he had a lot of security and stuff.
Yeah. And didn't he give you strict instructions before?
Well, he didn't. I don't think we were allowed to speak to him before the show.
Really?
He was really kind of cordoned off, and I'm there with some great performers. I'm just trying to think who was there. I'll get back to it. But we're all there sort of thinking, what are we going to do? And we get instructions via someone else of what song we're going to play and what order it's... Well, actually, we don't know what order it's going to be. We're just going to hang around at the side of the stage until our number is called. And then we get to go on stage with Jerry Lee Lewis. So it's real. It's kind of hard to imagine. Very old school. Old school. Anyway, my time comes and it's like, I know what song we're doing. I think we did a couple. And I go on there, and we've also had the instruction, nobody goes in front of the piano. Nobody upstages Jerry Lee. You do not go between him and the audience or between his piano and the audience. So we're all kind of standing in a line. You can see it in the clip. I think it's Dave Davies is next to me.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Who's one of the complete originators of rock music.
Yeah.
Actually, I should have mentioned him. He's probably the first heavy metal guitarist, isn't he, really, Dave Davies? Anyway, we're all there, and I go on there, and I get carried away because I'm like... When do I get the chance to play with Jerry? And I'm looking around. Does he want me to play? Yeah, he wants me to play. So I go forward and I start doing it. And suddenly I'm between him and the audience. And I think, I've made a mistake here. And but I kind of looked over to him and he gave me that kind of wry smile, like, okay, buddy.
I get it. You're having the time of your life.
Yeah, and what you don't see in the clip that I put up is at the end of that, you can see it in the full version, he says, and I didn't realise this until yesterday. He says, that guy with the guitar made me want to sing Great Balls of Fire all over again. And he means me. He doesn't know my name. He has no idea. He's just some guy who came up and played loud guitar beside him. But the corollary is, and I only found this out this morning, a good friend of mine was working with Jerry Lee just right up until he died. And he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And they started talking about me. And Jerry recalled that moment. And he said that was an amazing moment, when Brian came over and did that. So he knew who I was afterwards. And that was just before he was taken from us. So that kind of made me feel very emotional, yeah.
And it was one of the tracks was Whole Lot of Shaking Going On. I think you performed that together. So before we go any further, I just must congratulate you on the huge success of Face It Alone. Getting to #1 in 21 countries, could be more now, on iTunes.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
Amazing, yeah. We never thought of it. We never thought it would have that big an impact because we thought of it as a fragment and it's like, do we put it out? Is it complete enough to put out? And then there was the temptation to get in there and embellish it. We could have played new guitars, we could have done, but we didn't. We just mixed it, put it together. And I think it speaks of those days so strongly. And because it's so simple, Freddie's voice comes through so clearly, like in your face. And I think that's why it's had such an effect. I love it. I must say, I love just hearing his voice. I love hearing what he does with that incredible instrument, that golden instrument that he had. And you hear the passion. He's working on the song. When you hear him on this record, it's kind of like a demo. It's the first time he's ever sung it. So he's working on it, and it probably would have changed quite a bit if we'd continued to work on it at the time. But it's all there. His feeling, his passion is all there. So yeah, we loved it, and we thought, yeah, let's put it out and see what people think about it.
And they loved it. And there's a video as well. The video's been out for a couple of weeks as well. So
yeah.
Another one of your passions is photography, which moves us on nicely to this fantastic new book, Stereoscopic Photography. That's right.
That's right.
And this new book, Stereoscopy is good for you.
Stereoscopy is
You
good
can
for
teach me a few things.
Yeah, yeah.
Stereoscopy, life in 3D.
Yes.
You got the idea for this during lockdown, is that right?
Yes, and I have to credit Nicole, our lovely publicist who's here with me today. She said, let's get people to send in their stereoscopic pictures. And we're talking about a kind of community which had grown up on Instagram. Strange enough, I'm speaking to Instagram now. But it gradually grew, and I think partly because of lockdown, because we all sort of gravitated towards some new kind of communication. And I started off by playing a lot of stuff on there with a guitar, and people would respond to me and play along with me. But I also started putting stereoscopic pictures up, 3D pictures, which I'd taken, and people would respond. And I realized that there was a kind of growing stereoscopic community there. So it was Nicole, as I say, who said, let's get them to send stuff in which shows us what their world is like during lockdown, and see what's inspiring them, see what's getting them through. And it started off as let's do a little pocketbook of it, because it looks like it's going well. But then it kept coming. It's like an avalanche of people. And we thought this has to be a serious book, because the quality is incredible. So then me and Denis, actually, my wonderful archivist, we worked very hard to format all these into a configuration which doesn't hurt your eyes, because, of course, everybody's formatting is different. So for the book, we had to really nail it to make sure you don't get a headache when you leave through the book. Having done that, we just looked at it and thought, this is a work of art. There is such a breadth of invention and technique from these basically amateur stereographers, but they all get it. They've all got something special. So you see...
I love it. And because my eyes aren't great, but I love it. I mean, you get the glasses in the back of the book, and I was amazed at how quickly the pictures just leap out of the page. And you really get the hang of it quite quickly. And there's some great pictures in there. There's wildlife pictures in there, the people's pets, some fantastic landscapes. I had no idea, by the way, until I saw this book, that you have your own woods named after you.
Oh, that's another thing, yeah. Well, I bought a woodland years and years ago with the idea of returning it to its kind of primeval state. It was a kind of thing that I had. But, of course, I was becoming more involved with rescuing animals at that point, so it became a project to give wild animals a better chance in life, and that's continued. And then I got the opportunity to buy some farmland, which was forming a ring around this property, because the woods weren't very big, and it was, even though we could look after the animals on our property, they would escape and go somewhere else, and it wasn't a good life for them. So I was able to buy the farmland, which was going to be a housing estate, and convert it back into a woodland. So this is probably about 15 years ago. We planted 101,000 trees, and it's now a beautiful woodland, which all the kids who are growing up around there can go in for their nature study.
Yeah.
So they got a forest instead of a housing estate. So I think I'm quite popular at the moment.
Fantastic.
Until I do something wrong, But actually, it's quite difficult, because you have slightly conflicting groups of people who want to use the forest in different ways. Some people want to walk dogs, which is great, but of course if the dogs are off a lead, they will decimate a lot of the wildlife. So you've got to kind of find a path between different people's interests.
Yeah.
And if you do too much in the way of trees, you're not doing very well for your butterflies or your invertebrates. So it became a real learning curve for me to try and make the best use of this new woodland. But boy, it's beautiful.
And you know what? And you can see some pictures, because there are some pictures in this new book, which is out now. And it's fantastic. Honestly, I urge anyone to just go and discover it, because it's fantastic. And there's an exhibition in London as well. If you're in the London area, people can go and see.
Yeah, Charing Cross. It's the
Yeah.
Proud Galleries near Charing Cross, and we will be there for the next 5 months. So it's great.
All the way up
Anytime
until March.
drop in. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Come in and experience stereoscopy or 3D or both.
It's brilliant. Well, wish you all the best. Thank you so much for getting up early and
Thank you,
also
James.
for being our first radio interview post-lockdown. It's been fantastic chatting to you.
Great, thank you. And
And,
it just proves that stereoscopy is good for you. Darling.
It genuinely is. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, James. Real pleasure.
All the best.